I know we have a number of other reporters that are out, and Teresa Woodard's been here in the studio with me all evening. Teresa, so give me, I know you were talking about Encore just a little while ago. You were also talking with emergency managers across Dallas, Fort Worth, getting storm reports. So, and I know we wanted to go back to Scoop just for a moment because it was really picking up there, but kind of pick up where you left off, if you don't mind, please.
Absolutely. So let's just kind of reset for everybody. Let's start with the power outages. As we've been talking about, there were really high winds that have come through. I've been standing here for several hours watching as the number of power outages has gone up. There's now about 85,000 customers across the North Texas region serviced by Encore that don't have power. There's a live look at the Encore map, and you can see when we brought this to you a while ago, there were quite a few. There were less dots on the map than there are right now. So clearly, unfortunately, the situation with power outages is growing. Now, I also have been watching a map that shows power outages across the state of Texas. And maybe an hour ago, I jotted down that there were about 75,000 outages. That's now up to 135,000 people without power across Texas. So clearly, it's going up as we make our way through this storm.
Okay, Teresa, how many did you say right now?
Across the state right now is 135,000 people without power across the state.
Okay, what do we have up here? Just say in the Metroplex.
85,000 serviced by Encore.
Okay.
And that's, of course, give or take, because, Pete, there are some regions that are serviced by, smaller,
co-ops, right?
Yeah, smaller electric companies. But that gives you a good idea. And a lot of folks at home have maybe looked at this map when their own power is out, but each of those white dots, if you click on each of those dots, it takes you further, it zooms you in, and so you can start to see more and more outages. Like I can see one in Dallas right now where there's 39 more outages if you clicked on that map or clicked on that dot. And so clearly that's one of the issues. However, I don't want to forget the fact that we do have reports of damage all across the region. So you saw that Sydney was at a location sort of in just northeast of downtown Dallas, it looked like, based on where their location was on the map, where there was flash flooding. We know that Frisco had to close at least one road because of flash flooding earlier tonight. We know that McKinney firefighters were responding to a fire at a home in McKinney. But I think what we really need to talk about is some damage in some of the more rural areas. Bonham, we are being told through a message from their emergency management department, Bonham has some extensive damage throughout the county, or throughout the city rather. They have said that just telling people to basically stay home. They say they know that there's power out across the city. There is down trees, there are road hazards, but they are telling people don't get out. Okay. On your right, I want you to take a look. This is that live picture from Sydney Persing and Justin Fuller. This is on Live Oak in Dallas. You can see they're putting out flares, and this is why, because there's water. That road is flooded right there. And so they're trying to avoid, or telling people to avoid it. This is where she had those live pictures of cars that had driven into the high water. And I don't think that anybody got trapped inside their car or anything like that. But clearly you did have a situation where cars entered water, high water, because they just couldn't see it, most likely. And then they got stuck and they got into some trouble. So you can see the firefighters there doing their job. They were putting those flares out, and then they're off in the distance. Those are some of, I believe that is a Toyota Corolla that we saw driving or being pushed out of the water. So thankfully, it looks like the folks who are out they're fine. They're walking around, but you know that unfortunately they're having a bad night because their car got into some high water, and we all know you don't want to do that. You don't want the damage to your car, and you also don't want to put yourself in a terrible situation to get whisked away. We've all heard it, turn around, don't drown, and that's really a good indication. Tonight, high water just appeared out of nowhere here on Live Oak, and unfortunately you can see what developed. So let's keep that picture up, and I also just want to briefly mention what we've heard out of Palo Pinto County. We know that Mineral Wells has power lines down all over the place. We also heard that they had some metal buildings that were damaged. We know there's trees down in Strawn and at Possum Kingdom Lake. And we also know, again, I've mentioned this, the power out in different places, but we also know that Palo Pinto County has been dealing with some 911 troubles. And so there is a chance that there are people who are calling, saying, hey, I've got power lines down across my property, I need some help. And they're not able to get through because, unfortunately, they've got 911 issues and phone issues as well. So as we continue to look at this picture here, you can see someone pushing a car off to the right. you don't necessarily know exactly what happened, but Pete, when people drive into high water, they can get themselves into some really bad situations. Cars can stall out, and I'm assuming you wouldn't have firefighters pushing a car if that car was able to drive. So this is the result of folks driving into water that's across a road. Again, it's late. I mean, it's midnight now, and so there's a chance that these people just couldn't see the water as they were approaching it.
Teresa, I had that happen to me a couple weeks ago. I was driving home. I don't know, it was midnight or whatever. It was like within the last 2 weeks, and I was on the tollway, and I was going about 40 miles an hour, and I did not see the water. And I drive a large SUV, and I hit that water going 40, you know, well under the speed limit, and it was raining so hard that I'm like, oh my gosh, what happened? It happened so fast. I'd never had that happen to me before. I mean, everything was fine. I didn't get stuck. I made it through it, but I'm like, holy cow.
It gives you a good perspective because we preach it a lot, but then once it happens to you, you start to think, okay, now I can see how it could be easy.
Totally. And I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at, you know, that could be my daughter there, that could be my son, and I see that, and I'm like, you know, listen, I'm old. And I've driven through a lot of stuff, but I was startled when it happened to me, let alone a young person. Those look like two young women. You know, they probably don't have much experience, but I mean, I'm sure they were startled and, you know, panicked a little bit, and all of a sudden they couldn't see, just like I couldn't see the other night, and then boom, you drive into something. It's like, what in the heck happened? So it looks like they're okay, fortunately.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing, you know, I mean, you want to stay home when this kind of, I told my kids, and they're in their 20s now, I said, stay home tonight. You guys don't need to be out driving around. And of course, they're getting up for work early in the morning. But some folks, maybe you're driving home from work. Maybe you're going to work. You just don't know the situation.
Yeah, for sure.
I will say the severe weather threat has ended in Dallas, Fort Worth, in Dallas County, Tarrant County, Denton County, Collin County, and Rockwall County, okay? The atmosphere is just too worked over right now. This is mainly a flooding rain event in the Metroplex. The severe threat has now shifted south of the Metroplex, Johnson County, Ellis County, and locations south of there. So we no longer have, Teresa, the good news is we no longer have any severe weather threat in the Metroplex, but we're now dealing with this. And I got to tell you, Teresa, I believe we're going to see more of this type of stuff over the next couple of hours. People not being able to see, and they're just driving into high water.
Well, that's a good reminder then, Pete. If anybody is still watching right now, don't get out. Don't go try to see what this storm might have done in your neighborhood. Stay home. And then if you're just waking up because maybe you work an overnight shift or you work an early morning shift, just be very, very careful. As Pete just said, if we saw it happen out of the blue here in Dallas on Live Oak, it could happen anywhere with this much rain falling in this short amount of time. Not surprising to see it happen.